You know that feeling when you walk into a room, expecting warmth, and instead the air turns ice cold? That's exactly what hit me the second I stepped into the banquet hall. The reunion had been circled on my calendar for weeks, a chance, I thought, to finally feel like I belonged, to share a few laughs, maybe even heal some of the cracks that had been there my whole life. I adjusted the collar of my shirt, balancing a tray of homemade brownies I'd stayed up baking the night before. My mom always said family gatherings were about showing effort, and I wanted to show I cared. The hall smelled of roasted meat and spilled beer, laughter bouncing off the walls. For a second, I let myself relax. Maybe this time would be different. But then I froze. My name rang out, loud and sharp, not in greeting but through the squeal of a microphone. Oh look, everyone, guess who finally showed up, Mr. Always Late and Always Boring. The crowd chuckled. At first, I thought it was some corny icebreaker, a slip of humor to kick things off. Then the voice continued, mock serious. He's here, folks. Hide your wallets, because you know he never pays for his own drinks. And don't worry, ladies, he's still single, shock of the century. The room erupted with laughter. My chest tightened. They weren't talking about some stranger. They were talking about me. I scanned the crowd, searching for the source, and my heart sank. It was my cousin Adam, standing at the front with a mic in hand, the so-called MC of the evening. His grin was wide, smug, the kind that dared you to object. Around him, uncles slapped their knees, cousins elbowed each other, and even some of the older folks chuckled behind plastic cups. For a moment, I stood frozen in the doorway, holding my tray like a shield. My ears burned, my palms itched. Should I laugh along? Should I walk out? Every muscle screamed to do something, but I couldn't move. Adam wasn't done. And let's give a round of applause to our guest of honor, the guy who skipped last year because, rumor has it, he was too busy crying into his spreadsheets. Another wave of laughter crashed through the room. I swallowed hard. Crying into spreadsheets. That wasn't random, it was something I'd confessed once to my brother, during a late-night call when I was overwhelmed at work. I'd been vulnerable. And now, here it was, broadcast like cheap comedy. The brownies in my hand suddenly felt ridiculous. Like some joke prop I didn't know I was carrying. Go on, man. Don't just stand there. Adam jeered, his voice booming through the speakers. Say hello to everyone, you know, before you run off to update your Excel files. The laughter was deafening now. I felt it crawling over my skin like ants. My eyes darted to my mother, seated at a table near the front. She didn't step in, didn't wave Adam off. Instead, she gave that tight, polite smile she always wore when things got uncomfortable, as if to say just let it go. And in that instant, something inside me cracked. This wasn't just teasing. This was years of little jabs, of being the family punchline, finally amplified by a microphone for the world to hear. And everyone, every single one of them, was laughing. I set the tray of brownies down on the nearest table, my hand trembling as I did. My throat was dry, my chest heavy. But beneath the humiliation, beneath the urge to vanish, something else stirred. A heat, slow but steady, rising through me. I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet. But I knew one thing, this reunion wasn't going to end the way they thought. Adam loved the spotlight, always had. Growing up, he was the kid who turned every Christmas dinner into a comedy show, cracking jokes until the adults clapped and the kids copied him. But tonight, it wasn't about making people laugh. It was about making me small. He tapped the mic with exaggerated flair, pretending to be an announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man of the hour, the only guy I know who manages to make a promotion sound depressing. Seriously, You could hand this dude $1,000,000 and he'd still complain about taxes. More laughter. My jaw tightened. They thought this was hilarious. My cousins clutching their drinks, my uncle's belly laugh echoing through the hall, even a few kids giggling because, well, the adults were. Adam smirked, sensing he had the crowd. But don't worry, everyone, he brought dessert. Because nothing says, I have my life together, like showing up single, broke, and with brownies. The words hit harder than I expected. I hadn't told anyone I was struggling financially, not really. Sure, I'd made some bad investments, sure, my rent ate up most of my paycheck, but that wasn't public knowledge. At least, it shouldn't have been. Then it clicked. My brother. He was sitting 3 tables back, whispering into our cousin's ear, barely hiding his grin. My stomach dropped. He'd told Adam everything. I swallowed, forcing myself not to bolt for the door. My pulse thudded in my temples. They wanted me to play along, to laugh, to be the harmless joke at the center of their fun. But something inside me refused. Adam leaned in close to the mic, lowering his voice for dramatic effect. Hey, maybe this year you'll finally find a girlfriend. Or at least someone who won't ghost you after one date. The laughter that followed wasn't warm anymore. It was sharp, mean, cutting. I felt the words slice through me. That line wasn't a guess. That was private. I'd confided in my mom once, telling her how hard dating felt after my last breakup. And now it was part of Adam's routine, blasted across the room like cheap gossip. I looked around. My mother avoided my eyes. My dad stared at his drink. My brother chuckled openly, proud of his little contribution to the circus. I clenched my fists under the table, nails digging into my palms. My chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. I was done. Done being the quiet one. Done letting them laugh while I shrank smaller and smaller. Adam was still going, milking the silence for his next punchline. But before he could deliver it, I stood up. The chair screeched against the floor, cutting through the room like a blade. Heads turned. The laughter fizzled into murmurs. And for the first time all night, Adam's grin faltered. The scrape of my chair echoed louder than Adam's voice, and for a moment, it was the only sound in the room. I could feel every eye on me, cousins frozen mid-sip, an aunt clutching her paper plate, kids staring wide-eyed like they'd just seen something forbidden. I pushed the tray of untouched brownies forward on the table, my hands steady now despite the storm in my chest. "Go on, Adam," I said, my voice carrying clear across the hall without a microphone. "Don't stop now. Tell them all what else you know about me." Gasps fluttered through the crowd. Adam chuckled nervously, twirling the mic cord around his hand. "Oh, come on, man, don't be so uptight. It's just jokes. Jokes." My lips twisted into something between a smile and a grimace. Funny how your jokes sound exactly like the things I told people I trusted. The air grew heavier, the laughter dead. My brother shifted in his seat, his smirk fading as whispers started circling. Adam cleared his throat, trying to keep his stage presence. "Hey, relax. We're all family here. That's what reunions are for, having a little fun." I took a slow step forward, closing the distance between me and him. The wooden floor creaked under my shoes, each sound deliberate. No, reunions are supposed to be about celebrating family. About catching up. About reminding each other that, no matter how messy life gets, we've got each other's backs. But I guess for you, it's just about getting laughs at someone else's expense. The microphone squealed as Adam shifted, suddenly unsure of himself. "You're taking this way too seriously." "Am I?" I cut him off, sharper than I meant to. My heart was pounding, but my words came clean. I've been the butt of your jokes since we were kids. I kept quiet then because I thought one day you'd grow out of it. Turns out, you just found a bigger stage. Silence. From the corner of my eye, I saw my father glance at my mother, like he was silently asking if someone should step in. But she just stared down at her napkin, her hands folded tight. Adam opened his mouth again, but I raised a hand, stopping him cold. No, I'm not done. You all laughed, didn't you? I turned, my eyes sweeping the tables. Every one of you sat there and laughed, like it was entertainment to strip someone bare in front of their own family. Nobody spoke. The only sound was the faint buzz of the speakers still live on the microphone. For the first time in years, I felt taller. My voice didn't shake. I wasn't shrinking. And then, just as the silence stretched too long, my brother snorted. God, you're so dramatic. The crowd shifted. Some chuckled nervously. Adam latched onto it like a lifeline. But me. My eyes locked on my brother, and that was the moment I knew. The real problem wasn't Adam with the mic. It was the people feeding him the lines. The snort from my brother cut sharper than Adam's fake jokes ever could. It wasn't just a sound, it was dismissal, like my feelings were nothing more than theater to him. You're so dramatic, he repeated, louder this time, leaning back in his chair like he was the king of the room. It's a family reunion, not a therapy session. Lighten up. A ripple of awkward laughter followed, but not as strong as before. Some people glanced down at their plates. A few shifted uncomfortably, realizing this wasn't funny anymore. I turned toward him, my chest tight but my voice steady. You think this is drama? Do you have any idea what it feels like to walk in and hear your own family turn your private life into a comedy routine? He shrugged, lifting his beer. Don't share stuff if you don't want it out there. Simple. My stomach knotted. There it was. The casual cruelty, the justification. He didn't even deny telling Adam my struggles. He just acted like it was my fault for trusting him. I took a breath, forcing myself to keep control. I confided in you. Because you're my brother. Because I thought maybe for once, you'd listen instead of laughing. But I guess that was my mistake. The hall was silent again. Adam fidgeted with the mic, unsure if he should jump back in or stay quiet. For once, he didn't look so smug. My brother smirked, clearly enjoying the spotlight now. Oh, come on, don't be such a victim. We're just having fun. You really think anyone here cares about your sad little stories? And that right there, was the moment the room shifted. Because while some people still looked entertained, others began to stir. My aunt's smile faltered. A cousin leaned over to whisper to another, their brows furrowed. Even Adam looked uneasy at how far my brother was taking it. I stepped closer to his table, my pulse pounding in my ears. Maybe you're right. Maybe nobody here cares. But I do. And I'm done pretending it's fine just because it makes you comfortable. My brother rolled his eyes, but I noticed his jaw tighten. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I let out a humorless laugh. No. I'm finally seeing it for what it is. The silence was heavy, electric. I could feel it pressing down on every table, every set of eyes flicking between us. And then, from the far side of the room, a voice spoke up. Quiet but clear. Actually, he's right. The words cut through the tension like a blade. Every head turned toward the speaker. And I realized, this was the first time in my life someone at one of these reunions was about to take my side. The voice came from the back of the hall, steady but hesitant. It was Aunt Marlene, my mom's older sister, the one who usually stayed quiet and faded into the background during these gatherings. She stood slowly, setting her glass down with a soft clink. "Actually," she repeated, her eyes sweeping across the room, "he's right. This isn't funny. It hasn't been for years." A wave of murmurs rippled through the tables. Adam froze with a mic in his hand, unsure whether to joke his way out or just stand there. My brother leaned back, his smirk slipping. Aunt Marlene cleared her throat and continued, louder now. "I've watched this happen to him since he was a kid. The teasing, the little digs, the way you all pile on because it's easier to laugh than to treat him with respect. And you know what? It's cruel. Plain cruel." The silence that followed was different this time, heavier, ashamed. A few people wouldn't meet her eyes. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her chair, fidgeting with the edge of her napkin. Adam chuckled weakly into the microphone. "Come on, Aunt Mar, you're really going to make a big deal out of this? It's tradition. A family roast." "Don't you dare call it tradition," she snapped, her voice cutting sharp enough to make even Adam flinch. "Traditions bring people together. This tears them apart." My chest tightened, but for the first time that evening, it wasn't from humiliation, it was something else. Relief. Someone saw it. Someone finally said it out loud. I glanced around the room, scanning faces. Some relatives looked guilty, others defensive. But the crack was there, splitting the easy laughter apart. My brother scoffed, raising his beer again. "Oh, please. He's not some victim. He's just bitter because he doesn't know how to take a joke." Aunt Marlene's eyes flicked to him, sharp and unwavering. "There's a difference between a joke and an attack, and you know it. You've been feeding Adam private things just to humiliate your own brother. If you think that's normal, maybe you need to ask yourself why." The room went still. My brother's smirk faltered completely now, his ears red, his grip tightening around the bottle. I took a step forward, my voice quiet but carrying. "She's right. I'm not bitter. I'm just done pretending this is okay." The words hung in the air like smoke after a firework, sudden, undeniable, impossible to ignore. And then Adam, desperate to salvage his spotlight, tried to laugh it off. "Well, if you're done, maybe we should just move on to karaoke before this turns into a family therapy session." But no one laughed this time. Not even my brother. For the first time in years, the room wasn't against me. It was against them. And I could feel the balance starting to shift. The uneasy silence was almost worse than the laughter. You could feel it pressing down on the hall, making everyone fidget in their seats. Adam shifted from foot to foot, clearly itching to change the subject. But my brother wasn't about to let it die. He slammed his beer bottle onto the table, so hard the sound cracked through the air. "Oh, give me a break," he barked, his voice louder than the speakers. "You all act like he's some poor little victim. He's 35 years old and still whining about being picked on. Grow up." The words came fast, jagged, full of venom. His face flushed red, and I could see the anger rolling off him. "You think life's been so hard for you? Please. You've had it easy. No wife, no kids, no real responsibilities. Just sitting in your apartment feeling sorry for yourself." The jab stung, but not because it was true. It stung because he wanted it to. He wanted to twist the knife, to remind everyone of the image he'd built of me as weak, pathetic. Listen. I stood tall, my voice even. "Responsibilities? You mean like helping mom and dad pay their mortgage when you were still living at home rent-free? Or covering for you when you blew through your credit cards and begged me not to tell anyone?" Gasps rippled across the room. My brother's eyes widened, just for a split second, before narrowing into a glare. "That's not the same," he snapped. "No," I said quietly. "It's not. Because I never used those things to humiliate you. I never stood in front of this family and dragged you down just to make myself look bigger." Adam looked between us like a tennis umpire caught in a match that had gotten way out of control. The mic in his hand squealed with feedback as his palms started to sweat. My brother shot to his feet, knocking his chair backward. "You're pathetic," he spat, pointing a finger at me. "Always have been. Always will be. You think anyone here actually respects you? They laugh at you because it's all you're good for." The hall went quiet again, but this silence was different. Tense, uncomfortable, almost dangerous. Some cousins shifted nervously. My aunt shook her head. Even Adam looked rattled, his usual cocky grin gone. I felt my pulse thundering in my ears, but I didn't flinch. Not this time. "Maybe they did laugh," I said softly. "But after tonight, they'll remember who kept standing while you had to tear someone else down just to feel tall." The words landed heavy, and for the first time, my brother didn't have a comeback ready. His jaw worked, his fists clenched, but no sound came out. And then, from somewhere in the crowd, someone clapped. Just once. Slow. Deliberate. The sound echoed through the hall like a spark ready to catch. The clap was jarring in the silence. One, sharp and deliberate. Heads turned toward the source. Uncle Robert, my dad's older brother, leaning back in his chair with a half-smile, his palms still poised. He clapped again. Then again. The sound echoed like a challenge. And slowly, a few others joined in. First my cousin Sarah, then Aunt Marlene, then two of the younger cousins who didn't fully understand but could sense which way the wind was blowing. Soon the hall filled with scattered applause, not loud, not unanimous, but enough to shatter the silence. Enough to make my brother's face twist in fury. "What the hell is wrong with you people?" he snapped, his voice cracking. "You're really siding with him? After all the years we've had to put up with his moodiness, his self-pity, his—" "Enough." Uncle Robert's voice cut like a blade, silencing him. He stood, his broad shoulders still commanding respect after all these years. "You call that putting up with him? What I saw was him putting up with all of you. Paying the bills, showing up when no one else would, carrying weight that was never his to carry. And this," he gestured around the room, "this is how you repay him. With microphones and insults." My brother's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked furious, trapped, like an animal cornered. Robert's gaze shifted to Adam. "And you think you're funny? You're not. You're cruel. There's a difference." Adam's ears turned scarlet. He lowered the microphone, mumbling something about just trying to lighten the mood. But the damage was done. I stood there, heart pounding, not quite believing what I was hearing. For the first time in my life, someone was defending me. Not behind closed doors, not in whispers, but right there in the middle of the reunion for everyone to see. The applause quieted, but the atmosphere had changed. People looked restless, uneasy, glancing at me with something that felt dangerously close to respect. And that's when my brother snapped. He shoved past the table, his chair clattering to the floor. "You're all pathetic," he hissed. His finger jabbed toward me. "And you'll never be more than the family joke. You think they're clapping for you? They're just clapping because they hate me more." Gasps rippled again. My mother finally stood, her face pale, her voice sharp. "That's enough." But the words barely left her lips before my brother turned on her too. "Don't you start. You've been defending him his whole life, like he's some fragile little saint. Well, look around, Mom. No one even likes him." The words hung in the air like smoke, ugly and suffocating. And for the first time that night, my mother's mask cracked. Her eyes narrowed, and when she spoke, her voice carried through the hall like a gavel. "You're wrong." The words stopped him cold. "You're wrong." They came from my mother's mouth, crisp and final, and for once she wasn't smoothing things over or forcing a smile. Her eyes locked on my brother with a sharpness I hadn't seen in years. A hush swept across the hall. Even the kids quieted, sensing something bigger than them unfolding. My brother blinked, confused. "What?" "You heard me." She took a step forward, her voice steady. "You've twisted everything to make yourself look strong while tearing your brother down. But I'm done letting you do it." Gasps broke out around the room. My mother had always been the peacemaker, the one to laugh things off, to sweep tension under the rug. But now her rug had been yanked out completely. My brother scoffed, trying to recover. "Oh, come on, Mom. Don't act like he's some kind of saint. He's been moping his whole life. You just humiliate him," she snapped, cutting him off so fast he flinched. "You spread his private struggles. You laugh when he's vulnerable. And you call it a joke. But it's not a joke, it's cruelty. And you've turned this family into your audience." The room buzzed with whispers. My brother's face flushed, his hands shaking as he jabbed his finger at me again. "He's manipulated you all. That's what he does. Pretends to be the victim, makes everyone feel sorry for him." "Stop it." My mother's voice cracked like thunder. The microphone squealed in Adam's frozen grip. "He has never once asked for pity. He's carried this family quietly while she turned on him, her voice rising, "while you've taken advantage of every ounce of goodwill anyone's ever given you." Silence. Heavy. Raw. My brother's jaw dropped, but no words came out. And then, like a fuse sparking, someone clapped again, this time louder, faster. It was Aunt Marlene, but others joined almost instantly. Uncle Robert. Cousin Sarah. Then half the room. The applause grew until it filled the hall, drowning out the stunned look on my brother's face. I stood frozen, heat rushing to my face, not from shame this time but from something else, something I hadn't felt in years. Validation. But my brother couldn't take it. His chair lay toppled on the floor, and in a sudden, furious motion, he kicked it hard against the wall. The crash made several people gasp. "You're all pathetic," he shouted, his voice cracking. "If this loser's your hero, then you deserve him." And with that, he stormed toward the doors, shoving past relatives who pulled back as if afraid to touch him. The doors slammed behind him with a boom that rattled the windows. The hall was left in a stunned silence broken only by the sound of my mother's shaky breath. And then, slowly, her gaze turned to me. For the first time in years, it wasn't tight-lipped or dismissive. It was proud. The hall still vibrated with the echo of the slammed doors. My brother was gone, leaving behind nothing but his anger and the sour taste of everything he'd said. The air was thick, charged, as if no one dared to move until the dust settled. Then, slowly, I turned my gaze to Adam. He still clutched the microphone, his face pale, his earlier swagger gone. He looked like a kid who had been caught pulling a prank that went too far. The cord dangled loosely from his hand, and for once, his grin wasn't there to save him. "Adam," I said, my voice calm but carrying. "Give me the mic." He hesitated, glancing around the room for backup, but none came. Even his usual supporters avoided his eyes. Finally, with a reluctant sigh, he extended the microphone toward me. The weight of it surprised me when I took it. I had always been the one listening, never the one speaking. Never the one holding the spotlight. But now, with the mic in my hand, the hum of the speakers vibrating in my palm, the silence was mine to fill. I took a breath and raised my head. "I've been quiet my whole life," I began, my voice echoing through the hall. "I thought if I stayed quiet, if I laughed along, if I swallowed the hurt, maybe one day this family would see me as one of their own. But all it did was make me invisible." Faces turned toward me. Cousins, uncles, aunts, even my mother, who looked like she was holding her breath. I've been the butt of jokes since I was a kid. Every mistake, every vulnerability, every piece of myself I shared, it was turned into material for someone else's laughter. And I told myself it didn't matter. That if I kept showing up, kept giving, kept paying, maybe one day it would change. My throat tightened, but I didn't falter. But tonight proved it never will. Not unless I make it change. A murmur swept through the crowd, low and uneasy. I pressed on. This isn't a roast. It's not tradition. It's not family. Family doesn't use a microphone to tear someone down. Family doesn't laugh at your pain like it's a punchline. Family lifts you up when you stumble, they protect your secrets, they make you feel safe. And if you can't do that, my voice grew harder, then maybe you don't deserve to call yourselves family at all. The room was silent, so quiet I could hear the faint buzz of the speakers. I looked down at the microphone in my hand, then back up at the crowd. "I'm done being the joke," I finished. "And I'm done pretending this is okay." I set the microphone down on the nearest table with a soft thud. The hall felt different now. No laughter, no mockery, just the heavy weight of truth hanging in the air. And in that silence, I realized the reunion wasn't the same anymore. It couldn't be. Because I had finally found my voice. When I set the microphone down, it felt like setting down a weight I'd carried my whole life. The silence that followed wasn't awkward anymore. It was thick, raw, almost reverent. No one laughed. No one smirked. No one dared. For the first time, I looked around the room and saw not just faces, but reactions. Aunt Marlene's eyes shone with quiet pride. Uncle Robert gave me the slightest nod, the kind that said about time. Cousin Sarah sat stiff, her hands clasped tight, guilt written all over her face. And my mother, she was crying. Not the polite dab of a napkin tears she used when speeches got sentimental, but real tears, her shoulders trembling as she looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. She stood, slowly, and crossed the space between us. Her hand reached for mine, hesitant, almost afraid I'd pull away. But I didn't. Her grip was warm, fragile, but it carried an apology she couldn't put into words. "I'm sorry," she whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. The air shifted. A few others stood, Uncle Robert, Aunt Marlene, then two cousins, until nearly half the room was on their feet. Not clapping, not cheering, just standing. Standing with me. Adam slumped into a chair, defeated, his microphone abandoned. My brother was still gone, the echo of his slammed exit lingering like a stain. And for once, I didn't care. I looked at the brownies I'd set down earlier, still untouched. For a second, I almost laughed. Hours of effort, baked into those squares, waiting to be shared. A stupid little gesture that no one had wanted, until now. "Anyone want one?" I asked, my voice breaking the silence. A ripple of laughter, this time soft, genuine, not cruel, spread through the room. Someone came forward, then another, until the tray was finally emptying. It wasn't perfect. The fractures were still there, the wounds fresh and visible. But something had changed. The dynamic had cracked, and for once, the joke wasn't on me. Later, as the night wound down, I stepped outside into the cool air. The noise from inside dulled to a faint hum. I loosened my tie, inhaling the sharp night breeze, my chest finally free of the pressure that had weighed it down for years. I didn't know what the future would look like. Whether my brother would ever speak to me again. Whether my family would truly change or just pretend until the next gathering. But I knew this. I had spoken. I had drawn my line. And no microphone, no cousin, no cruel laugh could take that away. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the outsider at my own family reunion. I felt like myself. And that was enough.